PJNET.TV, streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And in our chat room, we have Andy Clapp standing by. In our green room, it is Monday night, March the 9th, 9 p.m., 9:01 on the East Coast. Let's get started. Counting down to Studio 6 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, good evening. Welcome to PJNET.TV. We're starting a brand new week. We have just restored. We've put Humpty Dumpty back together again. We are in the Eagle's Nest and we are operational. We have Andy Clapp, who was also at the North Carolina Christian Writers Conference, along with many others, standing by. And I don't even know what we're going to talk about, but Andy, welcome to PJNet.TV. Did you get everything cleaned up from the mess we made there?
Hey, it was great, Coach. It was good to see everybody. It was a great conference. Y'all didn't make that big of a mess. I was impressed.
We'll try harder next time. It was kind of blustery and windy one day, and then beautiful the next. No snow, no frost. Andy, we haven't talked about this before coming on the air, but I know, and anybody that knows you knows that you would never self-aggrandize anything that you do. But I want you to share a story, because at the VIP luncheon at the end, see, I didn't know, but, you know, when I heard the news, when Rhonda gave her little story, I leaned over to the person next to me, which was Del Didway, and I said, "Now that's Andy Clapp. That's Andy Clapp. Tell us that story. If you, please don't be humble. Share with us, because I think there's a lesson in here for all of us."
Well, we were getting ready for our one-on-one appointments, and Rhonda had come up to me, and I had I guess it was a 12:10 appointment or so with one of the publishers, and Rhonda came up, and I know Rhonda pretty well, and she was telling me that she had messed up on her schedule and had missed an appointment earlier that day with that very publisher I was getting ready to go meet with. And I told her, just go ahead and take my appointment, because, for me, the joy is getting to do the conference, and whether or not, anything comes personally from that doesn't matter to me. I would much rather one of my fellow writers, one of my colleagues, get that opportunity. And it worked out perfectly, because what Rhonda was pitching was something they were very interested in. And so I was very thankful that, the Lord just kind of opened that opportunity. The Lord knew that at 12:10, because what were the odds? We were all over the place in that building. But the Lord brought her up there at that time so that our paths crossed. And, I didn't really, I didn't know that she was going to tell anybody that happened. Because it was really, that's just what we ought to do for one another, is just set aside ourselves and push somebody else forward. John the Baptist said it the best. John the Baptist was at the height of popularity, and Jesus came, and John said, "He must increase and I must decrease." And I think that in all of us, there needs to be that attitude of, I would much rather somebody else get an opportunity, or I'd much rather somebody else get the chance to, see a dream fulfilled, or to, because what she writes is just as important as what I write. And, I'm lucky enough I get to host a conference. Not everybody gets to do something like that. And Serious Writer picked me out, 3 years ago and said, let's try to do this here. And for me, the joy is in really serving the writing community more than anything personally. But the Lord had a way of just absolutely blowing my mind later on that day. And I think that when we give of ourselves, the Lord has promised in His Word that if we give of ourselves, that He will indeed honor that. And He did. And praise the Lord that publisher was interested in what she was pitching, and I'm just thankful for that. We had a good hug, and we were excited, and I'm gonna keep up with her and make sure that she gets that proposal whipped into shape and sent out to that publisher. So I'm excited for her.
Well, Andy, let me fill you in on some things that happened prior to that maybe she didn't share with you and maybe you didn't know. But Sunbelt girl, Barbara, and I were chasing down Rhonda to get her to do a video that we do while we're at that conference. And she was so distraught. She said that she was just in no condition to do that, and she was visibly shaken. Later on, I was in the sanctuary doing some setup work while other events were going on elsewhere. So really, I was about the only one there, except for one other person who was in one of the pews just praying, crying. It was Rhonda. Praying for, she had driven 350 miles primarily for that interview, for that 10 minutes with that editor or publisher, whoever it was. And her heart was broken. She was broken. She was grieving. It seemed like the wheels had just fallen off. Her whole world had just, been shaken at its very foundation. So you ministered to her in a very special way. Now, Andy, you left out an important detail, and I thought you would. I knew you would. But she stood up and began saying, good things happen to those who give of themselves. And even though you surrendered, essentially, that appointment, something good did happen, right, to you personally, right? Go ahead. Please tell us.
Yeah. I had a later appointment with another acquisitions editor, and we pitched the idea of a novel that I had written, and less than 24 hours later, we had a contract for that novel to be published, and they announced it at the VIP lunch that the publisher had accepted it, and they were going forward with publication. So that was absolutely incredible and exciting. But I don't deserve a lick of credit or anything. That's God. I mean, there was no way I could look at Rhonda and tell her, and just act like that wasn't. She needed that spot, and sometimes we have to just recognize that and see that the Lord puts us in the position. I mean, that wasn't me, Coach. That was the Lord. He knew that I would be the one that would have that spot, and he worked that out ahead of time. I believe that. I don't think it was anything for me. I think it was all him, and he took care of Rhonda, and I'm glad of that. I am very thankful for that, and I am overwhelmed by the blessing of what he provided for me. And when you see God is moving like that, then there's nothing you can do but just sit back and say, praise to God, because that's him. That's how he works.
Well, I'm reading in the chat room, Ben Cooper said that Andy did a great deal for me as well. I'm not sure what that was, but
Ben is a very incredible person, and Ben did a great job on a book that he's written. I'm excited to see what happens with that. I am praying for that project, praying for Ben. He's done a wonderful job with what he's doing.
Well, I have there's a lot we could talk about. Let's there were a lot of the PJNet .TV family scoring points at that conference, and I hope that others scored points as well. But it seemed to me that having platform is something that you hear when you go to these conferences. And I was asking, Doug, speaking of Doug, let me take a moment out. The mug that you always see me using is a special gift from my daughter for Father's Day, and it's very coveted and cherished. But I also got a new mug that Doug presented me. I don't know if that was personal or on behalf of the team, but I
Mm-hmm.
am so proud of that mug. I will have it on the air another night. We were lucky just to get operational today, to tell you the truth.
Oh yeah,
Andy,
yeah.
uh, your church, Mount Zion
Mm-hmm.
Baptist Church, always seems to find new ways to impress me in the way that they serve and the way that you serve. Now, I've done a lot of work around a lot of pastors in an associational capacity, and
Mm-hmm.
I've observed cat pastors under this type of situation, and usually they have kind of a roped off area, pastor's corner over here. They're all eating lunch together over there. Okay,
Yeah.
and they will take some time to circulate in the regular people and say hello and start little conversations, but then they return to their little special place. But time and time again, I see you carrying around a gallon jug of sweet tea to the tables. Here, you want some tea? Time and time again, I see you. Service is something that is scriptural, but being a pastor doesn't mean you don't serve anymore. Being a pastor doesn't mean that you're exempt from the kind of things we all should be doing, right?
I think so. I think that well, for me, I think it's important that we set the tone, and for my church, we have always sought to be the leaders by example, not just in word. And I go back to Jesus washing the feet of the disciples.
Mm-hmm.
That he would, if Christ is humble enough to wash the feet of the disciples, I can get a gallon of tea and go fill up your glass. And I don't. It doesn't. It doesn't matter to me if anybody even recognizes or notices. It's just the fact of if God has put me in a place where I can make your day or your life just that much better, then, and it may be something simplistic, but I think sometimes it's the simplistic that matters the most. Instead of the grand themes, sometimes when we just do the smallest of things, Jesus said that. Jesus said in the Gospel of Matthew, he said, "If you give one of these a cup of cold water in my name, I guarantee you, you will not lose your reward." And I think he was very literal in that. That it doesn't have to be the grand or the grandiose things, but that if you can hold the door for somebody, if you can pour a little bit of water in their glass, or if you can help them carry something, I believe in all of that we're getting back to that servanthood of Christ, who knelt down and washed the feet of the disciples.
And that's very much our theme at PJNet.TV, because
Mm-hmm.
we are there to serve. And
Right,
we have people who travel far. When I get there, there's a lot of setup. It takes about 5 hours to set up. But
right,
some of our team members, Doug Carter comes to mind, Sunbelt comes to mind. Others did. They just pitch in. They just help,
yep,
and I think that's what we're called to do. As you so well pointed out, if Jesus can wash the feet of his disciples, and tell you what, I think he would wash anybody's feet if he just given a different setting. Who knows? He may have, and it just didn't get recorded. But you said you like to set the tone, and I would say you do a good job of that, because you're not the only one
thanks.
serving. There must have been 10. I don't know how many, but there seemed like there's about 10.
Yeah,
The people in the kitchen were constantly busy. Just they're just great, hospitable folks.
yeah, it's kind of our mission. We really tried to get back to um, biblical hospitality, and understanding that when we serve someone else, we are serving the Lord in turn. And how, I mean, that's a good day. And, something, while we were there, Michelle Medlock Adams and Bethany Jett did something really incredibly sweet for my girls. I mean, just really blessed my kids. And I woke up the day after they had gone, and I said, okay, now in turn, who can I go bless as we have been blessed? And I think if we get that model of thinking as Christians, then the game will change, because as we have been blessed, so we should bless. And I've been blessed, Coach. I mean, I get to do what I love. I get to write. I have wonderful, wonderful people around me. I get to serve as a pastor in a church that it's just good people. They like to serve, and so I'm blessed. And in turn, realizing the blessing of God, the natural response as Christians is, okay, now what can I do to bless somebody else? When we get back to that, then watch out what the church can do. It will be phenomenal.
What all else does your church do? I can't fathom it, but tell me a few things.
Um, One of our big programs is Operation Christmas Child through Samaritan's Purse. We do over 2,500 boxes a year through them, and that's a ministry that has grown. Again, we've trusted God every year, and it's grown and it's grown and it's grown. It started with 100 boxes about a decade ago, and we kept stepping out a little bit further. And I have like this wonderful, uh, the head of Operation Christmas Child. She is just touched by God. Her daughter was part of the conference, was at the conference, and Miss Betty just, she runs with it, and she's got her a team, and that team just all year long we're doing Operation Christmas Child. We do a backpack program. We found there was a study written in a newspaper a few years ago that said that there was a kid going home eating bird seed on the weekend until he could get back to school and get the free school lunches. And it just shattered our heart that this is right around us and you don't even realize it, because most days we're driving the same way to the same places, and we forget there's a whole lot more people out there on those roads we're not traveling. I challenged the church last night to take a different route to work this week and see a part of life that they don't normally see. And so we do those every month, and we serve about 8,000 meals a year through the backpack program. And it is one that, and I told them when we started it, it's not about church attendance. These people these individuals who are getting these bags may never come to our church, but we're taking the church to them by doing what James said, and filling that physical need, and not just neglecting it for other things. And it has been, and we've watched that program grow over and over and over. Um, we have a ton of different ministries, and if I start listing them all, I'm gonna get in trouble because I'm gonna miss somebody. We have a women's group that um, they sponsor picnics for what I like to say are the overlooked population. They do picnics for the hearing impaired. They do picnics for the visually challenged. They do picnics for the mentally challenged. And it's reaching those people groups that most of the time we're not even going to, there's no ministry really designed for that. But they've set up these picnics, and this group, it's a lot of the ladies, but some of their husbands get involved too. And those are the things that touch our hearts, because we're reaching those who may have been forgotten. And I think that's what Jesus did. I think that Jesus was a lot. If you get down to the nuts and bolts of Scripture, look at where he was at. Look at where he was spending his time. And he was a lot of times with those who had been outcast, or those who had been forgotten, or those who were overlooked, or those who felt like maybe they had nothing. And then here comes the Son of God to where they are, the lepers. Nobody wanted to be near them, and here Jesus is there with them. He's touching the eyes of the blind, and he's one of my favorite one is the man who lived amongst the tombs. Nobody wanted to be near him; they were scared of him. And
I
and
would
and
be.
here, well, I would have been too. I would absolutely have been too. But here Jesus goes in there amongst that situation, sets the man free, and the man then has a testimony to tell the world. And I've always thought, man, if the church was more into that than battling each other, what a testimony we could tell. And that's kind of been our goal, is really to find those who overlooked or forgotten, or just really struggling in their lives, and go show them they got value in the eyes of their Creator. That when God wove them together, as Psalm 139 tells us, that number one, He didn't make a mistake, and number two, He didn't create them and forget them, and that's kind of our goal, to be honest with you.
Andy, I'm going to take the 1 minute extra that
Yeah,
I'm going to give ourselves to tell you a little story.
sure.
How your church impacted me in a way you'll never know unless I tell you. I had gone to Burlington to pick up a cable that I had left behind. So
Hmm.
I'm kind of distressed because that took about an hour chunk out of an already busy schedule. And on my way back, there are 4 deputy cars parked and they're doing a license check.
Yeah.
So the deputy kind of rambles back to my car and, yeah, just doing a license check. Yeah, so I hand him. Well, the first thing, my wallet was in the pocket in the dash of my car. So I had both hands on the wheel. Said, "Officer, I'm going to leave my left hand on the wheel. If you'll notice that in front of the gear shift knob, in that pocket, my wallet is right there. That's not a weapon, but I'm going to slowly move my hand and get my wallet so that I can present my driver's license to you. Okay, everybody clear? All right." And he really appreciated that. So I slowly get it and pull it out. And he says, "Florida, huh? You a long way from home, bud." I said, "Yes, sir, I am." "Well, what's a Florida boy doing way up here in North Carolina?" And I said, "Well, officer, I'm actually videoing the North Carolina Christian Writers Conference at the Mount Zion Baptist Church where Andy Clapp's the pastor." He said, Go on ahead." Well, he checked my license plate first to make sure it wasn't expired. But I don't know if he knew you, but he certainly knew Mount Zion Baptist Church, because as soon as I said that, he tipped his hat and said, "Move on."
Praise the Lord for it.
All right. Well, Andy, we're out of time. Thanks for sharing with us tonight, brother. And we'll see you about this time next month. That would be the, second Monday? First month? What day is it? It's the second Monday of the month right here on PJNET.TV. We've got Casper coming up in just a few moments. So, Andy, thank you again for sharing with us, and thank you not only for your ministry, but the way that you are leading Mount Zion Baptist Church to have a servant's heart. Same kind of heart you got, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach.
All right. All right, folks, PJNet.TV, just getting started. That was Andy Clapp, and he's here the second Monday of each month at 9 p.m. Eastern. What a blessing he is to our team. All right, well, folks, hang in there. Casper for Colorado coming up in just a few moments. I got to tear down the Eagle's Nest here real quick, rebuild it, get things ready for him, and PJNet.TV will continue. Now, before I leave, 2 questions. 1, what's the boldest thing you've ever done for Jesus Christ? Number 2, when was that? I hope that none of us are ever satisfied with either answer.